Hey, welcome to Dan's Model Works. And today we are taking a look at Italeri's Volvo VN780, and it's part of their show truck line, which is trucks that have got like these great big huge fancy graphics on the sides. This isn't something I had been planning on getting for a long time. Rather, I saw it on the hobby shop, and I was like, "Ooh, there's something I wasn't expecting anyone to do." Volvo actually has been a late comer to the North American truck market. I mean, they didn't really hit the North American truck market till about 1980 when they entered into a merger slash marketing arrangement with White Trucks. And by 1980, White Trucks was pretty much on the way out. They had been basically slapping their names onto Freightliners and a couple other brands and things like that for quite some time, and their market share was dwindling. The thing is like they would have trucks that were basically marketed as white Freightliners, but they were basically Freightliners, and the white name was just kind of tacked on the top of it there. So this gave Volvo an opportunity to get into the North American market, and it gave White basically an easy way to introduce a new, up-to-date, modern design. The idea was it had a familiar name of White, but at the same time, people would get used to the idea of a truck that had been engineered by Volvo. And a few years later, in the mid '80s, when General Motors just really didn't seem to have it for heavy trucks anymore, they entered into a similar arrangement with Volvo, and as they kind of lost interest in things, you ended up with trucks that were labeled White Volvo GMC. And then once again, as the older designs were phased out and people were used to the Volvo name, basically Volvo bought out General Motors' share of the combined company. And I will admit, I've never liked the styling of Volvo trucks. I won't say I don't like Volvo trucks. I've never driven one. I'm not a truck driver. But in terms of the styling, I've never cared for them. I've just always thought they were kind of like bland as bricks, which is kind of a silly reason to like or not like trucks. So I'm sure the comments are going to fill up from people who say they hate these things, and some people will say they're awesome. What I will say is Volvo has, I believe, they're the number 2 truck maker in the world. And if you travel on any North American highway, you see tons and tons and tons of these things. It seems like, I don't know, 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 3 trucks is a Volvo. So they got to be doing something right. So anyway, let's take a quick look at this box. Now, if we look at this side here, you can see there's a photo of a real truck that's got one of the paint schemes on it. And of course, we've got the little blurbs and several languages telling us about it. And then we've got a silhouette of the truck over here. The ends are the same, and basically they've designed this so that as it's sitting in a hobby shop up on those top shelves where they usually put the really big kits, somebody was thinking, because basically this is the way you're looking at a lot of these kits when they're on that upper shelf, and they've got it set up this way so you can see it. So somebody was doing some thinking there. If we look on the other side, they've got a little bit of legal blurbs here, and then they've got a couple of shots. This one, of course, is the one paint scheme, and this is what they say on the front here. I think it says something like adhesive foil decals. That's what these are right here. They're both in the kit, and they're quite interesting to see. So I think people are going to be surprised at some of what's in this kit. I was a little disappointed at a few things, but let's take a look at it. Alrighty. Let's see what we have in here. Get that out of the way. We have the instruction manual here. And then we have the decal sheet, and it is huge. We've got the giant graphics here, and we've got a bunch of stars. Okay, yep, the stars. Basically, you put them on wherever you want. And I'm not sure about this Hunland. That's quite possibly a trucking company. So these look quite nice. Don't think I'm going to use these giant things, but if that is something you find interesting or find attractive, they certainly are well printed. And then we have these. Whoa. And these are actual stickers. So you actually peel them off sticker wise and stick them on. So should you choose to go with the foil, that's what these are. Now at first I thought maybe they'd had some sort of a bare metal foil product and you would be peeling that off and putting it on, but no, these are more actual stickers. So I'm probably blinding everybody here, but they are already die cut. You can see the dies here, so you can just peel it off and put it on. And if that's what you want to do, that's awesome. I don't care for it myself, although I'm wondering if some of these are usable for the review mirrors, because some of these actually are about the size of the mirror, so that would be quite useful if that's the case. And actually, if we look at this, these pieces right here have got reflectors on them. So I'm thinking these sections right here are on this sheet. So I probably will be using at least this part. That's actually quite nice now that I look at it and realize what that is. As for the shiny bloody slash, I'm not keen on that, but these are quite neat. Quick overview of the sprues. We've got the chrome sprue. We've got an octopus of tires here. We have the frame. And then in this sack, we have the clear parts in their own bag, and then we have all the other sprues. So we got a black sprue in here, we've got a gray one, and we've got some dark blue plastic. So a closer look at the instructions. We have just a potted history in 6 different languages. And we've got some safety warnings here. Please don't eat the parts. And then we've got the sprue maps, and of course you can see here's the frame, all in one piece. Here's the wheel sprue, and these are the body sprues. And as is customary with Italeri truck kits, the cab doesn't come all as one hollow casting. It comes as pieces which need to be glued together. We saw that in the Ford Wrecker kit, and the Ford Aeromax was the same way. And because I'm on camera, my fingers will not turn pages. We've got the axles going together. We've got airbags being put on. And the total suspension going in place. We've got the transmission, the drive shaft. And we've got the front suspension going on. And then here we've got the mud flaps and things. Fuel tanks. Got the wheels going on, the exhausts, and then we have the interior, and we've got decals for the dash, which is quite nice. And this is something I'll get to a little bit later. There's no backs on these seats. We have the interior going together, and as you can see, it is a full interior with all the furniture and things like that. Then we have the hood or the bonnet going together. The interior with the seats going up on the inside. Quite a few extra parts along here. So even though it's a very clean truck aerodynamically, you can see there's still lots of little grabs and things to go on it. And then we have the cab itself going on to the chassis. Then we've got the business end here with the fifth wheel. And then it's got a thing here for European trailers and American trailers. So there must be some sort of a difference there in how things are fitted on. And then we've got version A of the decals. This uses the stickers. And then version B, this uses the swirly decals. So let's meet the parts. We have a one-piece chassis molding here. And it looks like this piece here, that bit right there, needs to be cut out. It's basically the molding gate. That part there has to be cut out. And I have to say I have some mixed feelings about this. I've always enjoyed putting the whole chassis together. The frame rails and all these cross pieces, putting those together and then turning it into a rolling chassis. I always kind of liked that. That was something I enjoyed doing. However, I can also understand that for a lot of modelers, that was a pain in the butt they'd rather avoid. The Revell Peterbilt kit a few years ago had a one-piece chassis as well, and it seemed to be a popular kit, so who am I to buck the trend? One thing I will say, it does result in a small inaccuracy in that these frame rails should be a C channel. So if you looked on it end on, you should have, it should be shaped like a brackets or the letter C. Of course, when they mold it like this, you've got the top of the frame rail, but the underside isn't there. But, I mean, how often are you picking this thing up and turning it around? I gotta tell you, once I put a big truck model together, I'm afraid to touch it. So, it's a small inaccuracy. It's up to you whether or not it's a problem for you. I suppose if it's something that really bothered you, you could probably just put a very small piece of plastic on here to represent the bottom of the C. The chrome sprue, here we go. Very nicely molded. I don't see any blobs or flaws, you know, areas where some guy got hair on it or whatever. This is the light right there. And I only see one, so the other one must be rattling around the box. I'll have to look for that. But these are the very corners of the fenders, and they get covered over by plastic for the headlight. So, looks quite nice. Here's our clear sprue. I'm not going to take it out of the bag because I don't want to scratch it. These things here, these are the combination headlights, turn signals that go into the fenders. And of course, we've got the windshield here. I took a quick look in the empty bag, and here's our missing headlight. So I put it in a Ziploc bag. So that way, it's less likely to go missing. And then we have our octopus of tires. And there is writing on the side. It'd help if I actually put it on camera. There is writing on the side, but I don't see a brand name. But I still think that's pretty cool, though. Very nicely done. And of course, if you really want it bland, you can turn them this way, and there's no writing on this side. But I don't think anyone's going to look at these and say, it doesn't say Michelin or Firestone or Goodyear on it. This next giant sprue has got the roof. And this is the back of the cab. You figure a 1/25th scale person is like this tall. That is a huge expanse. Figure this thing is rocketing down the road. And then we've got the sides. And then we've got the skirting all these look pretty cool. I don't see any swirls or whorls or anything like that. You could probably polish up this plastic and just use it as is if you wished. The next sprue here has got the windshield and the firewall, and this is pretty plain looking, this firewall, but as you'll see in a little bit, there's not going to be much to see. We've got, of course, the sides of the hood, top of the hood, and I'm not quite sure what these parts here are. And of course, here's the bumper, so the chrome of the bumper fits up in beside there. The next sprue has all of the interior fittings. We got a couple of loose parts here. You can see this is probably the console that goes over the driver. And of course, we can see in this part, this is the footprint of the floor of the cab, and of course the living compartment here. And this would be, I'm not sure what that is. That is probably the top of the dashboard here. And this is the bottom of the dashboard. They have really pulled the stops out for this interior. This is the sides of the doors. You can see they even have a mesh for the speakers. And you could probably even load stuff into the pockets in the door. It's really, really nicely done. These, of course, are the compartments where the driver and possibly their spouse are going to try to shoehorn all their stuff in. This, I believe, is the upper bunk, I think. That's what that is. Now, I'm just going to bring your attention to one of the things that I'm not real keen on. If we look at the back of these seats, you can see that they're open. And from what I can tell in the instructions and what I can see of parts, Italeri has not molded the back of these seats. They're just open. Now, yeah, I know, probably you're never going to see the back of the seats. But for people with OCD like me, it's kind of annoying that you have these seats with these big giant gaps in the back. And the idea is, oh, nobody will ever see that. But it's an easy fix. If you want, you could probably just glue a piece of flat styrene on the back and then just trim away the excess, and that would close that up. Just a small niggly complaint on my part. And I don't think it really detracts too much from the kit. The next sprue is some wheels and some wheel rims. This actually looks vaguely familiar. I'm thinking this is a standard part that Italeri puts in all their truck kits. It looks an awful lot like the one that I used in the Ford Wrecker. And now we have the last sprue, and I'm not even going to guess what this is. We've got some axles here, and we have the front axle. This is the base for the fifth wheel. We've got some mirrors here, and a dog running up the stairs above me. We've got the airbags. And the mirrors, at first you might be thinking, oh, they're not chrome. Well, of course, on the real truck, they're basically plastic, and they'd be body color or whatever. These are the hockey sticks for the air intakes on the sides of the hood. We've got the fifth wheel there. We've got a cluster of air tanks here. There's the wipers. There's the drive shaft, and that's all molded in one piece. It's both front and back together. And this is the transmission. And of course, one part we have not seen, and it isn't in the box. And I don't know if this will be a deal breaker for anyone, but there's no engine. This kit is a curbsider. They don't give you the engine. All they give you is the bottom of the engine. And I don't know if that puts anyone off. It's It's a small disappointment to me. It's not a big disappointment. I kind of like the idea of being able to flip the hood forward or take the hood off so you can see the engine and everything like that. And, I probably would have made a mold of it and then I'd have, this rubber mold sitting off in the corner, Volvo engine for some future use. But that explains why the firewall in the cab has got no detail molded on it, because the hood is not ever intended to be opened up. So there's no point in putting any detail on there. But when you consider that a lot of car models are basically curbsiders, as a matter of fact, I've got GM Astrovan, no engine in it. The Dodge Caravans by Lindbergh, mind you, those are snap together, but curbsider, no engine. I've also got a Dakota pickup truck by Lindbergh. That's a glue together kit, but no engine. It's just a curbsider. I also have a Prius, no engine in that, just a curbsider. The Japanese model makers seem to be big on the curbsiders, whereas American model makers usually give you the engine. So, like I said, if that's a disappointment to you, then you might not want to go for this. Or you could scratch build an engine. Yeah, I'm not going there. So that is the contents of the big box with the Volvo VN780, and we've reached that point of the review where I know it's not going to close because I can never put everything back in the box and get it to fit properly. So hopefully nothing's going to warp when the lid gets put on it. It looks like it's a really neat kit. Like I said, as we were going over the parts, a few things I'm a little disappointed in, such as I like to be able to put the chassis together. They don't give you the engine, and kind of the seat backs, like would it have killed them to put two pieces in there for those of us who have OCD to fill in the back of those parts. It's not the end of the world, so we don't need to have anyone in the comments saying, what's wrong with you? Who cares if there's no back on the seats? Those of us with a little bit of OCD, hopefully not fatal, things like that do bother us. So, I have no idea when I'm going to get to this. Maybe sooner, maybe later. It is neat. And if anyone's saying, wait a minute, you said you don't like Volvos. Why did you buy a Volvo truck? Well, it's an important truck. Like I said, you go down the highway and at least a quarter, possibly a third of all the trucks you see are Volvos. So to simply say, I don't want a model of that would be kind of silly, because if you want to have a collection of significant trucks, this is something you should probably have. Same thing as if you wanted to have a collection of trucks from the 70s or 80s. A Ford Louisville would certainly have to be on your list of trucks. And if round two ever gets around to it, if they ever get around to it, they really should re-release International's S-Series trucks, because they were a dime a dozen on the streets in the 80s. I know I would certainly probably like to buy 3 or 4 of those, because you do all kinds of wonderful stuff with those. Hint, hint. So, thanks for watching Dan's Model Works, and until next time, just keep on modeling.